Now you are unmuted. Thank you.
Yes, I was muted, sorry. So thank you for the nice introduction and inviting me. And so I'm really taking the talk over from Stacy here and continuing more on the development of alternative protein products, but also give you some insights on the functional foods as well. But before I move into, before I move into product development, just a short reminder that sustainable food system comprises of very different dimensions. And so besides efficiency, food production should be planned and developed, taking into consideration various aspects that follow the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and also European Green Deal strategy that has been talked before as well. But besides social responsibility, producers must take into consideration those sustainable trends, because this is something that consumers are actually really expecting from them. And due to the digitalization and other trends, the awareness and connection of consumers with different environmental and health challenges has grown a lot. So this means that people are very well aware and we're really waiting for different sustainable solutions. So the food producers have to develop products that are actually economically viable, but are also good for the environment and to the health of people. But moving on into product development, what are the sustainability aspects that are drawing the movement and trends today? So first of all, promoting the health and well-being, and this could be maintained through different approaches. So the first one, to add different health promoting ingredients. It could be different micronutrients like vitamins, minerals. Also still the reduction of sugar and high protein and fiber content is something that is still very popular and where the market is driven. Popularity of fermented products, both we can talk about liquid and solid products, so different non-alcoholic beverages, still growing popularity, but also due to the quite high level of anxiety and stress due to the climate change and pandemic. So people are really looking for emotional well-being. And this could be gained through using different natural products, using close to nature concepts or different functional components to support mental health as well. And finally, personalized nutrition is gaining more popularity. And one of the possibilities over here is, for example, using gut microbiota analysis to make dietary recommendations based on it. Now moving forward, when we talk about sustainability from environmental perspective and also animal welfare, then meat and dairy-free products are currently following these trends, and I will go into it later as well. Of course, also reducing the waste, so valorization of different side streams and waste is really a hot topic. On that, I'm not going to spend too much time today. And of course, product development also goes together with packaging solutions, because it's really important how all those products are packed. But again, I'm not going to talk about it today, but I know that there will be a very interesting presentation coming after me on the sustainability and packaging materials. Some of the remarks how development of functional foods are carried out, or what is the workflow. So first of all, to follow the trends in the society, in the other industry categories, and look at its reflections to the food industry. Then moving on to put together the concepts, find out the benefits that you want to bring to the consumers, find the best ingredients for those purposes. It is always good to combine like whole products from materials that are naturally high in different bioactive components, and to combine it with another additives as well. And as the aim is usually to communicate your benefits to the consumers as well, that they know what your product is all about. It's also very important to be well aware what are the nutritional and health claims approved by European Food Safety Association, and what are the exact components, what are the exact concentrations, and how to use it in your packaging and your communication. And a lot of functional ingredients and bioactive components tend to lose decrease in time or during production process. So it's also very important to understand what is their stability during the production and also during the shelf life. And finally, an efficient communication to the consumers so they could understand and you can build a trustworthy relationship. Now to show some examples, what we have been working with as well. So boosting the immune system is a trend that have been brought out in many times. So this could be achieved by addition of different micronutrients or also through supporting gut health, either applying different prebiotics like fibers or different probiotic bacteria inside. And just to show you a couple of examples. So first of all, a broccoli soup, which is meant to boost the immune system and contains additional D vitamin and zinc. And below there is a series of dairy yogurts, which contain 4 different types of fiber, so to support really gut's health. Another trend dealing with stress and anxiety. And in this case, we have also developed a beret soup that contains magnesium and manganese, which support mental health and performance and reduce tiredness. And I think what is also important is that consumers are moving towards more convenient food, more snacking. I think it's really important to also have ready-made meals and snacks that have like extra health benefits and are really healthy to consume. And finally, it's still very popular to go lower in sugar content and to increase the protein and fiber content, because overweight is still quite a huge issue in all of the Europe and even wider. So now I'm moving forward to alternative proteins. I think those functional ingredients and that additives could also be used in different alternative protein products as well. But when talking about proteins, there was mentioned before as well that there are different types of alternatives for animal proteins, plant-based fermentation, and also cultivated or lab-based meats. And I will give a short overview of the plant-based protein products and development process. This is a very general scheme of how one plant-based meats alternative is produced. So the raw material is any kind of plant protein. There are a lot of products in the market with soy and wheat, what was already mentioned, that it has good functionality and good sensory properties. And so it's very popular and it's a more easy to develop products from soy and wheat. But more and more, we are focusing to use local crops like oats and different legumes. And in most of the cases, extrusion cooking is the process that is used to get meat-like texture. So plant protein together with water will go through the extrusion process, where with heat and pressure and shear, the material forms textures that are similar or close to the meat that you can see here below. And after that, depending on what is the final product that is developed, different plant-based fats, binders, seasoning, coloring agents, other ingredients are added to gain the final end product. Either it is a burger or some other type of product. There are different challenges and a lot of optimization. Of course, the first thing is to taste, what is the most important. So how to get taste to the plant-based burger. But also, it is very important to optimize the extruded material. So you can have a very big difference depending on the size of this extruded half product that is coming out from the extruder. and you get very different mouthfeel and very different similarity to the actual meat products. And maybe one more thing that I would like to bring out is the color and appearance for plant-based alternatives, especially for dairy alternatives. The color of different plant proteins might be quite a huge issue. Also, for example, for fish alternatives, if we talk about white fish, how to look similarly to the real white fish. But for example, if we develop beef-like products, it is very important to have the original or raw material red, similar to the meat, but when we cook it, that it would have the similar nice browning, similarly to actually the beef burger. And now showing you a basic scheme of dairy alternative development. So we can again start with different isolates, concentrates, but we can also start with the liquid protein base, and it will be pasteurized, and depending on the final application, either it is fermented or it might not be fermented. But either way, again, different fats, thickeners, emulsifiers, flavorings, other ingredients are added to get the final product with really desired properties. And when we talk about fermentations, then in dairy industry, fermentation is very common technology. And so if we want to develop plant-based dairy alternatives, fermentation has its really strong role in there as well. But milk is a very different matrix from plant-based protein, and also different plant sources also have different proteins and provide different substrates for bacteria to grow on. So it is important to optimize and choose the best starter culture, best bacteria for different plant materials. Here is an example of heat curve. This could be translated into fermentation curve, and we can see that different plant materials provide very different fermentation. And it is important to select the correct starter culture so you will have the product with best properties. And when I say best properties, first of all, it needs to provide acidification, but it's not only that it should reduce the pH or provide the right acidity, also the profile and concentration of different acids is very important to provide the correct or desired sensory properties. And also other sensory properties besides acidity play also a huge role, how the off flavors are reduced or how the desired flavors are produced during the fermentation process. When we talk about plant-based alternative products, what are the aims in the developments and future trends? So for consumers, it is easier to find a good response for the products that are already known. And that's for most of the alternative products are targeting to mimic animal-based counterparts. And this is where all the developments are aimed to mimic animal-based products. And there is a huge challenge to reduce different green notes and bitterness and astringency that was already mentioned before. And as said, it starts really beginning from the breeding, from the process of making proteins and up to the product development. So you can have a positive or negative influence in the really every step starting from the field. The other aspect is the nutritional quality of the alternative products. And at this point, I would say that the aim is to provide at least as good a nutritional profile as animal counterparts. And as been already mentioned, for dairy products, this is not the case today because it's very hard to get dairy products with high protein content. So they have actually quite high polysaccharide and fat content if you think about different yogurt-like products and cheese-like products. And also the allergenicity and presence of antinutrients. So the allergenicity is a problem, for example, for soy and for wheat, but the presence of antinutrients is all quite common to a lot of plant-based materials, and they affect negatively the absorption of different nutrients. And thirdly, I would like to bring out the environmental impact, because we are saying, and it is widely known, that plant-based materials have smaller environmental footprint compared to animal-based products, but it is not so straightforward. And actually, what I want to say is that not all plant-based protein sources are equal in terms of an environmental impact. And it's also very important to use natural crops. So there a lot of environmental impact is coming from the transportation and logistics. And also it is important to have diversity, which also means that we need to have a lot of different sources for our plant-based developments. And I want to bring out some of the possibilities, how to improve those quality of those plant-based products, both in terms of sensory and nutritional quality that we are also deploying. So firstly, very briefly about enzymatic treatment. What it means is that the enzymes are applied to cut down the large protein molecules into smaller pieces, even down to the size of amino acids. And enzymatic treatment can help to improve the solubility of proteins, which is important for the extraction process to get extracts with higher protein content, but also it helps to have liquid dairy alternatives with better mouthfeel and without any grainy or floury feelings. It also improves the digestibility and helps to degrade antinutrients. So, for example, phytates, which have shown to decrease the bioavailability of proteins, but also some micronutrients as well, like zinc and iron. And from the sensory properties, enzymatic treatment could help to reduce bitterness if we talk about bitter peptides. And the other aspect that enzymatic treatment could be applied is to boost flavor generation, because a Maillard reaction during heat treatment is one of very important routes how the aroma of meat products is generated during cooking. So if we cut down the proteins into smaller peptides and amino acids, we will have more Maillard reaction going on and more these desirable aroma notes coming from there. And the other approach could be to use fermentation technologies, and again, to improve protein digestibility and reduction of antinutrients, but also to improve the sensory properties of the product. So reduction of green beanie notes, it was already mentioned that aldehydes are one of the main components behind it. And just one graph here, we have fermented with 4 different vega cultures, and we can actually see that all of them are quite good at decreasing aldehyde contents compared to the blank sample. And besides reducing those off notes, it is also important what is the profile of desired molecules. So I just brought out 2, diacetyl and acetoin, which have like butter-like aroma and are desired for dairy alternatives, but there might be some other molecules as well. So it depends really on the application. But again, the production of desired molecules help to mask or hide those plant-based notes. Fermentation also helps to reduce the bitterness. It might also help to break down the bitter peptides, but the main effect is actually coming from the masking of these bitter notes, and it helps to improve texture of plant-based dairy products. So by reducing exopolysaccharides, which give a good viscosity to the samples. When moving on to meat alternatives, enzyme treatment and fermentation are both mainly carried out in liquid state. So if we talk about meat alternatives where we use powders, there is an additional drying step needed. That's why we are not using too much fermentation and enzyme treatment for our meat alternative applications. But I think this is something that could be done during the extraction process at the beginning, at the production of the protein powders. But we have done some preliminary experiments to understand how the fermentation of the protein powder could affect or influence the extrudates that we use for meat alternative production. And here is one spider plot where we can see that we had the control powder, we had phytase treated and fermented, and the extrudates made out of those powder showed that actually the fermented one had less chewiness, less hardness, very different texture. I think that this parameters, extrusion parameters could be optimized. So I really think that there is possible to have also with good textural properties, texturate from the fermented sample as well. But in this case, it decreased sourness and it also increased the bitterness. This might be due to the formation of some bitter peptides, meaning that this fermentation also really needs to be optimized to have the beneficial effects and not producing any other off flavors. And I know it's very small, but quickly to show you that when also compared with the GCMS analysis for aroma compounds, we can see that the same sourness could be related to different volatile acids that were produced during the fermentation. And we can see the reduction of aldehydes and some other things as well. But I'm not going into very detail right now. And moving on to sum up my presentation, and what I want to say now is that consumer awareness and connectiveness regarding health and environmental challenges will continue to grow, and therefore the market for sustainable food products will definitely continue to grow, and this will come through new developed technologies for production of different plant proteins with better sensory, nutritional properties, as well as an environmental impact. And due to that, also the quality of plant-based alternatives can improve and be better. And the selection of plant-based products will grow, because currently the situation is quite different, depends on the category. There is quite good range of yogurt alternatives with good quality, but when we look at the cheese market, as said already, they are nutritionally poor, and in a lot of the cases, the quality is sensorially poor, and the selection is not that large at all when we compare to the regular dairy cheese opportunities. And to sum up, food producers will be forced to follow sustainable path and do their best to communicate and build trustworthy relationship with consumers. And thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you very much, Sirli,